welcome ladies to week 8 and this week's edition of In Between Rounds. So this week I wanted to really get into sort of my top, let's say 10 suggestions on how you can keep your strength training effective with the equipment that you have or maybe do not have at home. So as we're trying to continue focusing on strength, it is important that you're working at the correct intensity for strength gains. And so I'm going to go over a few ways that you can vary many different elements of your workout so that you can stay within a proper intensity and get the gains you're looking for. So to start with sort of the most simplest suggestion is to increase your reps. Now I know this is one that you've all heard before, but I just wanted to remind you that when you're working in a 15 to 20 rep range, you're now going to be working in a phase considered muscular endurance. Okay, so you're moving away from strength and building the endurance in those muscles. So not that that's a bad thing, but just know that you're sort of training a different element of the program that we're in. And the other thing I want to bring up is if we're in a muscular endurance phase, we will be working in that rep range. But if you find you're always in that rep range due to the weights that you have at home, this can get really boring. So you also run the risk of losing form because it's just taking forever. So this isn't always the best option, but it's a great option if all you're needing to do is add a few more reps onto the workout that I've prescribed. The next thing I'm going to suggest is increasing your range of motion. And now this can simply be just working on your range of motion. Some people working out alone don't even realize that they've shortened the movement from what it should be. So check back in with the movements that you're doing. If you're doing something like a chest press, let me show you a vertical chest press here. Often I see people doing a chest press and they've shortened the range like this instead of going through that full range all the way opening through that chest and then full extension at the top. Similarly with a lunge, okay, you want to bring it back to the point where you're going all the way to that full range of motion and full extension, regardless of the type of lunge or any exercise that you're doing, because the longer the range, the more you have to work. So really work on going through a full range of motion. And you can also increase your range of motion by adding things like a step. If you're doing a lunge, if you bring that back foot up, you now have the room to increase that range. You can do the same thing stepping off of your step and down into that lunge, getting much more range of motion. And finally, even with your push-ups, raising those toes up, same thing. You're going to get through a much deeper range of motion this way. So switch those things up so that you can continue to play with that range of motion element. Next, I want to talk about tempo, okay? Slow your reps down. If you're using only light weights, you can think of slowing down maybe 2, 3, even 5 seconds during either your concentric phase when the muscle is contracting, or shortening I should say, or that eccentric phase whenever that muscle is lengthening, or both, okay? Time under tension is a great way to make any exercise feel more intense. And this is also a good thing to do because you can also really focus on your technique if you're slowing it down, because you really can't cheat, because it takes away any jerking that you might do to try to lift a weight that's much too heavy for you. If you're going slowly through that motion, through your full range of motion, right, you're gonna just connect more, you can tune back into that technique and get a lot more bang for your buck. Okay, my fourth tip is to play with your rep scheme or the process. Okay, so kind of similar to changing the tension over time, similar to when I was talking about the slow reps, but you can change your rep scheme to be more like 1.5 reps for each movement. So if we're doing something like a lunge, if you were to change it to 1.5 lunges, you're going to lunge back, come up halfway, back down, and all the way up each time. So again, you're playing with that tempo, you're keeping the muscles engaged for longer. It's really going to add that intensity. The other thing that you can do is play with sort of your rep scheme and take away any momentum. So if I was doing a push-up, lowering myself all the way to the ground, lifting my hands off the ground, and then coming back to press straight up. I'm taking away all potential momentum so that I really have to activate everything that much more to get through each rep. And kind of, I mean, these are all on the same lines of things, but I'm going to move into my next one. So my fifth tip is to increase your superset. So feel free to change your workout a little bit. Maybe group more exercises together so that you're having less rest. When I'm prescribing the rest in your workout, I'm doing this because if you have the weights to work at the intensity that I'm prescribing, you need to take that much rest. If you're unable to lift the weights because you don't have them, this is where you may need to take less rest. So that might mean just shortening your rest period or adding a few more exercises together so that you're increasing a little bit of that fatigue before you actually need the rest. Next, I'm going to move into my number 6, which is to start to work with more exercises that you are less familiar with. So if you're very familiar with forward or reverse lunges, switch those into something like a lateral lunge or a curtsy lunge, or a movement that's going to be similar but challenge you just that little bit more, and again, you'll get more out of it. Number 7 is very, very similar, and I want you to consider switching to more unilateral movements, so single-sided, single leg, single arm. Okay, you can use the weights you have to challenge yourself a bit more than if you were doing a squat or 2 arms. You can double up the weights in one hand and really increase the intensity that way. So there's always room to play with the exercises that I've given you so that you can make them a little bit more challenging for the equipment that you have. Number 8. I've talked about this a lot, and if you want a little more description, I do have a video on how to add bands into your workout. But we have our traditional way to add bands. So if you have light dumbbells, but you also have a resistance band, you do have the option to add both for each exercise, okay? And you can do that for most exercises. But the other thing that you can think about doing is add a mini band. So if I'm doing a squat, add your mini band just above your knees. You can hold dumbbells or not, but now you've got an added resistance here. You have to pull your knees apart. Your glutes are firing more. It's gonna make that squat feel so much more. You can do the same thing for your upper body. Okay, you can put that mini band around your wrist and even the row. Okay, so I've got dumbbells here. Now I'm using my shoulders, I'm stabilizing here, keeping tension on that band while I row. Many different ways you can add those bands into all of the exercises that you're doing. And then number 9, this is one that I don't think we use enough, and it's make your own weights. Use what you have at home. If you have a jug with a handle, obviously you can fill that with water, but filling it with something like sand is going to make it heavier than the water. If kitty litter, bag of kitty litter, okay, you've got tons of weight there. But one of my favorites, You're gonna grab your backpack. I already have some in here. Grab a textbook, or in my case, a cookbook. Well, I said I actually have 5 in here. So you wanna fill that bag up, do it up so nothing's falling out. And now I've got myself close to a 25-pound weight. Few options that you can do with this. Number 1, let's say you have dumbbells and you want to just add to it. I'm going to throw that backpack on, got my weight on my back, and I'm still performing my exercises as I would with that additional weight, or without dumbbells, same thing, okay? This would be the equivalent of having a bar on your back. If it was a front rack, okay, you can hold that bag in front of your chest. You're squatting, you're lunging, okay, front rack position. Even deadlift, depending on the length of your bag, I'm gonna hold it this way, okay? I've got my deadlifts. I can even hold it this way to make it shorter so I have a bit more range of motion. I can row. All right, so make some weights. Use what you have. And then finally, my last tip, number 10, is to combine these. Mix and match. Use a few of these tips together so that you're getting more time under tension, a little more resistance, some difficulty through an unfamiliar movement. Okay, you can use all of these just to combine and make yourself a super killer workout. So let me know if you do have any questions, but I hope this helps, especially right now as we're in this strength phase, because I want you guys increasing that strength, so pushing the limits as best you can while you are still working out from home. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the internet. Take care.